This is the Highly Sensitive Club, episode number 64.
Have you been told you're too sensitive, too dramatic, or too much? Do you have big feelings and deep thoughts you don't always know what to do with? I'm Stephanie Linn, a certified life coach and highly sensitive person. I've helped dozens of highly sensitive clients feel more energized, more confident, and more in control of their high sensitivity. In these episodes, you'll get the information and inspiration to level up your life as a highly sensitive person too. Welcome to the Highly Sensitive Club.
Hello, highly sensitive person, and welcome to this week's episode of the Highly Sensitive Club. I am caffeinated today, and I have had 2 fantastic coaching sessions with clients and 2 more on the way. So I am loving this day, and it is finally spring in Ohio, and the sun is shining, and it feels great. The high is supposed to be 69 degrees Fahrenheit today, and I am so ready for it. I, like you, am very affected by my environment, which includes the weather. When it has been gray for many days in a row, I start to get a little antsy. Sunshine makes me so happy. It is a wonderful day, and I am so excited to talk about today's topic. Here's your context, highly sensitive person. I have been thinking about this topic for a while now, and it's something that I recognize has changed for me over time. I, like you, am a growth-oriented person. I believe that we can change and that we can create new habits, new patterns, new thought processes for ourselves. One of the things that I want to talk to you about challenging and increasing today is your energetic capacity as a highly sensitive person. I want to give the caveat today that I am actively working on my energetic, emotional, and mental capacity right now. I've been thinking a lot about the podcast lately, and I recognize that a lot of the topics I've already covered, I will likely want to explore again in the future and to create more context, to share new stories, and to go into some deeper, more nuanced places. So today's episode is a possibility episode. It's an introduction episode, and I definitely know I will be exploring it again later as I learn more about my own energetic capacity and help my clients increase and improve theirs as well. Highly sensitive people take in more information and more input from the external world than 80% of the population. We highly sensitive people are the 20% whose nervous systems are more attuned to the outside world. We notice details, nuances, and subtleties much more quickly than other people do. As we go through our day, we take in more information, we process more information, and our internal landscape tends to have more information and more facets that we're going through on a day-to-day basis than a neurotypical person. What this creates for most highly sensitive people is a feeling of fatigue or chronic tiredness. If you are not resting enough, if you're not recharging enough, which is a must for highly sensitive people, you don't have the option to work 50 or 60 hours a week like a neurotypical person and not incur some kind of consequence if you're not resting and recharging yourself. It is totally possible you can work 50 to 60 hours, but the trends that I see are that most highly sensitive people do much better in the 20 to 30 hour a week work range. Now, that doesn't mean you can't expand your capacity, which is exactly what today's episode is about. If you feel called to work 50 to 60 hours a week and that feels exciting to you and you can't wait to get started because there are just so many projects and cool things you want to work on, you can get there. However, your current energy levels, if you're not managing them with rest and recovery, are probably leading you to feel chronically fatigued. Your nervous system and your mind are regularly overstimulated, which means that you continue to lower your capacity to take in new information, to process and create new solutions, and to even go through your day without feeling like your cup is getting smaller and smaller and you're having less and less energy to pour from. Overstimulation is a big risk factor for highly sensitive people when you're not controlling your capacity. You are probably in a crash and burnout cycle. You will go and go and go. You'll get a ton done. You're accomplishing a lot. You're knocking a lot of tasks off your list. You're taking responsibility for other people. You're keeping them going, or you're doing their work. And then you reach a point where 1 or 2 days out of every week or every 10, you completely crash. You can't do anything. You don't want to talk to anyone. You basically experience a mini burnout cycle every week or every couple of weeks or maybe every month, depending on what your particular cadence and the types of activities you're engaging in create for you. I know so many highly sensitive people. I have been one of them who go through this very high activity, pushing yourself past your current energetic capacity, not integrating, not learning, not resting enough, and getting into this burnout cycle where you basically shut down. You can't do anything you want to do. And even your downtime feels like it's wasted because you're not using your downtime on the things that you want to be using it on, like getting out in nature, learning something new, having a creative endeavor, doing some crafts or some kind of artistic activity, connecting with other people, or even reflecting and connecting with yourself. You're spending that time completely decompressing, basically shutting off your brain because you're so overstimulated. You've basically gotten the blue screen of death in your own mind. Your brain is completely shot. It does not have any other resources to take in more information. And you're just done until you absolutely have to wake up and do it again on a Monday morning or a Tuesday morning. The other thing that I see from highly sensitive people is a lot of emotion resistance in this phase where your capacity is really low. You're pushing yourself constantly past your limits in an unintentional way. You're doing it by default at your own expense, focusing on productivity in the sense of completing tasks and doing things that make you feel like you're busy and productive, but they're not actually creating results for you. When you're in that phase, there's a lot of resistance to your emotions. For most of us who get into this crash burnout cycle where you're not controlling your capacity, when you start to feel frustrated, resistant, disappointed, angry, resentful, tired, you push through and muscle through the experience rather than slowing down and actually feeling your own emotions. This is so common with highly sensitive people because our emotions are bigger than other people's. This is just the way that we exist in the world. We experience really intense emotions, and because we have more mirror neurons in our brains, we experience other people's emotions through our own empathy much more easily than the average person does. Emotions feel very big for us. If you are used to bypassing your emotions, not feeling them, not being with them, and constantly trying to push them away, distract yourself, avoid the emotion, they tend to build. I've had this experience recently getting coached around being resistant to my resistance. If you've had that feeling that the more you try to push down an emotion, the more it tends to escalate and get bigger, this is when you're actually turning a molehill into a mountain. Your emotions need to be felt. They deserve to be felt. That's part of your experience as a human and as a highly sensitive person. When you're willing to feel your own emotions, you actually prevent that crash burnout cycle from the overstimulation because you're regulating your emotions instead of letting them get out of hand and then reacting to them by default. When you're stretching your capacity and you're not being thoughtful and intentional in expanding it in a sustainable way where you're actually increasing your container. Emotional resistance is a really common trait where you're trying to push through, be more productive, take more action, be more productive, complete more tasks instead of feeling emotions. These are all signs and stem from thoughts like, I just need to make it through and then I can take a break. You start to think things like, this just isn't sustainable for me. I don't know how much longer I can do this. I know that this isn't working for me, but I don't know what else to do instead. How can I possibly keep going like this? This is just the way that it is. A lot of highly sensitive people have this thought that they've inherited from other people, from their work cultures, from their families of origin, or from society at large, that everybody is supposed to be productive all the time. That the more tasks you complete and the more time you spend on something, the more productive and the more valuable and the more worthy you are. This is a rule that is not yours. You don't have to keep it. In fact, for highly sensitive people, we want to lean into exactly the opposite. That it doesn't matter how much time you commit to something and it doesn't matter how many tasks you complete. If you're not making progress, it doesn't make any difference. The quality of your work as a highly sensitive person is higher than the average person in general. You don't have to work as hard in order to create the same results. For most highly sensitive people, our 80% is the average person's 100% effort. And there's still more that you could do. So your inner critic comes out. You start criticizing yourself. You know that there's this perfect standard you could be meeting. You add that on top of your resistance, that even though you're putting in a ton of effort, a ton of energy, you're producing more results and more progress than the other people around you, you still feel like there's more you could be giving. You could be your best self. You could be your ideal self. So you need to keep pushing. You need to keep doing more. I coach my clients on these thoughts and have even recently had a conversation with a client about this thought. The harder you work, the more successful you will be. So many of us highly sensitive people are extremely sensitive to rules. We know what the people around us expect from us. And even when they don't explicitly say things, we infer from their body language. We infer from their reaction to things. We infer from their facial expressions what they value and what they believe in, even when they don't know they're communicating those things to us. You have probably picked up this idea that you have to work hard, you have to put in your hours, you have to do all of these things in order to be successful. And the more you lean into that thought, the more you create the result of working harder and not having success. Particularly if your inner critic is coming in and having a lot of thoughts at you in the background saying, you could be doing better. This could be perfect. You could be trying even harder. You know this isn't your best work. If you had more energy, if you could just do more, you could do even better than you're currently doing and blow everyone away and make them so impressed with you and get all the validation that you desire. Your inner critic moves the goalposts for what success looks like so that it's constantly a mirage that you see in the distance and you never actually reach it. When you're thinking these thoughts, then you're creating emotions like overwhelm, guilt, shame, uncertainty, confusion, doubt. My guess is you are running away either internally or externally. You run away by not dealing with the emotions. You don't address the thoughts. You don't challenge yourself to see whether that thought process and that mindset is working for you or whether it's just something that you've fallen into and it feels familiar. You go through the motions that you know are not working. You continue to stay in the burnout cycle. You continue to push yourself harder and harder, thinking that that's the solution. And the more actions you take and the more tactics you employ, the better off you will be, which continues to create the result that you're overstimulated, you crash and burn out, start it all over again, ignore your emotions, and then end up in this chronic fatigue state. This is how you end up getting sick a lot of the time. This is how you end up having aches and pains that seem to be inexplicable. There are certain diseases and autoimmune conditions that they believe are psychosomatic because there's no explanation for why they exist other than chronic stress and chronic anxiety. As a highly sensitive person, because you feel emotions in such a big way, if you're ignoring negative emotions, they're just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Just because you don't like them and just because you don't want to deal with them doesn't mean they aren't there. There are two things that you can do differently in this scenario. The first one is that you can break this cycle and this idea that in order to be productive or successful or useful or worthy or valuable, that you have to work hard, that you have to clock a certain number of hours, that you have to take care of so many tasks, and then you will be worthwhile. You will get the accolades or the evidence that you want. Other people will acknowledge you or validate you. This is an outdated thought. It happens some of the time, and it happens enough that you've probably taught yourself, yes, this is the way to success because I have gotten external validation. I have accomplished things. I have achieved things and gotten awards or recognitions or promotions or bonuses or commissions because I've done these things well. I've gotten the good grade. I've gotten the trophy. I've gotten the accolade or the certificate. You do have some evidence from the external world that this process works. But deep down, you know, as a highly sensitive person, that it's not fulfilling. There's no meaning in these external validations. There's no depth to them. There's no purpose to them other than to accomplish them. And once you've accomplished them, it doesn't feel as exciting and thrilling as you thought it would be because you didn't have a compelling reason to go along with them in many cases. This is why so many people climb the escalator of whatever their career is or their family structure or their relationships or their health. And they get to that final destination and they're like, this wasn't as exciting as I thought it would be because you didn't infuse the meaning and the purpose into it. You followed other people's rules who are not as invested in depth and meaning as you are as a highly sensitive person. You did everything that they asked you to do. And just because they're fulfilled doesn't mean that you'll be fulfilled. And you might find that a lot of those people who were encouraging you to do that weren't fulfilled by those external validations either. They just didn't know any differently. This means that you can break the cycle of thinking that productivity is task-oriented or time-oriented. Productivity can actually be the results that you create and the value that you share in the world. That's where true meaning and where true depth comes from. That is absolutely a possibility for you, highly sensitive person. The other thing that I want to challenge you about, and the whole purpose of what I'm working on, what I'm helping my clients work on, is the idea that you can actually expand and increase your energetic capacity to do everything you're currently doing, but to do it more easily, more efficiently, and with more energy on the other side. I know that this might seem like a magical superhero reality that cannot possibly exist for you, but I guarantee you that it can. It is possible for you, even if you can't see what that looks like for you yet. I know this because I've done it and because my clients have done it too, or we're all in the process of doing it, which is why I know this is going to be part one of probably a series of episodes over time about expanding your energetic capacity. This is a two-part process. The first is to take your energy out of things that are draining it, drawing it away from what's really important and wasting it, and putting it into things that are truly important to you. Here's how this works. Taking in more input, being sensitive to subtleties and nuances and details, being achievement oriented and a problem solver, knowing how to follow the rules, and knowing how to be productive in the traditional sense of completing a lot of tasks and putting in a lot of hours. You probably have way more capacity right now than you're giving yourself credit for. You're simply misdirecting it into things that are not getting you the results or the goals that you want to get. You're going through the motions and you're repeating habits and cycles and patterns that other people have given you, and you're doing them above and beyond what the average person would do in those exact same situations. I know that you have way more capacity than you think. You're just putting your capacity into old patterns and habits and systems that don't work as well as they could otherwise. This is kind of like saying that you want to get from one side of town to the other, and you're going to get there by bicycle instead of getting there by car. You know you're going to get there with a bicycle, but you're going to work so hard. You're going to have to take different routes so that you don't get hit by traffic. You're going to have to go out of your way, and you're going to have to exert so much of your own physical energy in order to ride that bicycle from one side of town to the other side of town, versus using your energy to get into a car, driving to the destination much more efficiently, much more quickly, and then using your energy at the destination to do the thing that you want to do. You know what it would feel like to ride 20 miles versus to drive 20 miles. That is exactly what happens when you're putting all of your energy into fighting fires. You feel like you're chasing your schedule instead of being at the cause of your schedule. You're not being purposeful, and you're going through the motions by default, knowing that there's another way, but not really sure what the other way is. The other way is to come up with a new vision, new thoughts, and new emotions that will help you channel your current capacity into things that actually make you feel meaningful, deep, purposeful, and intentional. In the process, you can learn to expand your emotional capacity, whether that's going deeper in your relationships, knowing exactly what you want and the path to get there, making decisions in a clean and easy way, knowing that you can manage your emotions, not taking on other people's emotions or thoughts and opinions, but being aware of them so that you can build deeper connections, and being able to process in a way that's efficient without ruminating on the same cycles. That is where your energy can really be put to good use, and where you can start to build a vision of expanding your capacity to get more done in a shorter period of time. When I started this podcast, I had zero experience creating content like this on video or audio. I didn't edit my first, 10 episodes. I wanted to share as much as I could and do it messy if I had to in order to start the process. Now, about 15 episodes in, I started getting coached around editing. I don't enjoy the editing process, but I wanted to learn how to do the editing process so that I would know what kind of tone do I want for the podcast. What's really important for me to share? I am really glad I learned that skill. When I first started, it would take me 2 hours to edit a 30-minute episode. Then it took me an hour and 30 minutes. Then it took me an hour. Now I can usually edit a 25-minute episode in about 45 minutes. That's just a little example of how this works. 10 years ago, when I had just gotten out of college, I was working 2 part-time jobs, possibly 3 part-time jobs at the time. I've had a couple moments changing careers where I've worked multiple part-time jobs while I've been growing something. I used to work 40 or 50 hours a week. I would kill myself getting all of these tasks done for all these different people, for businesses that weren't mine. And then I would have these crash days where I'd been working 6 days a week or 7 days a week or 10 days in a row with no breaks. And I would have the crash day where all I wanted to do was watch TV all day, play video games all day, read a book, not do anything, and then start the whole cycle over again. Sometimes I would push myself so hard that I had to get sick in order to give myself a break. I remember specifically when I was growing my organizing business, I was working part-time for another organizer doing these pack and move jobs. I was getting my own clients. I was working as an assistant for other organizers. There was a point where I was working at the Container Store and I was a virtual assistant at the same time. I was basically working 6 days a week. This happened for about 4 weeks in a row, an entire month of this, and I caught a cold. That was the only reason that I stopped. Many years later, I don't need to get sick to take a break. If you've been following the podcast for a while, or even if you want to go back and explore them, I have a number of episodes I just released in the fall about different ways to rest and recharge, why it's so important for highly sensitive people to take time away, and why it's just part of our natural cycle, everyone's natural cycle, but especially highly sensitive people's cycle, to take time to recharge and to process. I know that this is possible for you, highly sensitive person. In the scenario I described at the beginning, where you're overstimulated, you're in the burnout cycle, you're avoiding your own emotions, and you're constantly fatigued and tired, that is how you know you're in survival mode with your high sensitivity. Switching that to even managing your high sensitivity is being willing to feel your own emotions, taking breaks without needing to hit a wall or crash and burn, managing overstimulation, recognizing when you're getting closer, changing your environment or making changes to your situation and the external world in order to support your internal world, and paying really close attention to when you're feeling mentally fatigued and redirecting yourself. If you are thriving with your high sensitivity, not only are you doing all the things you're doing when you're managing, but you are feeling your emotions and moving through them quickly and efficiently. I'm talking like within 5 to 10 minutes, and then you just move on with your day. You never have to worry about a crash or a burnout cycle because you're appropriately balancing your rest and recharge time with your active time and your results time. You never have to worry about coming to a complete halt, stopping the car entirely, and then having to get your momentum and acceleration back up again. You're constantly moving forward, and you might downshift, but you never lose your momentum and your inertia. You rarely get overstimulated because not only are you focusing your energy on things that are energizing to you or things that feel fulfilling, so you get into a flow state, doing more in less time with less effort, but you're also paying attention to when you're overstimulated so that you can take those breaks either internally or externally, where you leave the situation or change your environment so that you can calm your nervous system down. Anytime you start to feel that overstimulation, you can even either challenge yourself to push a little bit further in a growth way. So you're going just outside your comfort zone to create a bigger container, to create a bigger comfort zone and to push your capacity, or you retract a little bit so that you can recover and then you push it out further the next time. When you're tired, it's a satisfying tired. When you feel really fulfilled, satisfied, creative, or inspired, it feels completely different in your body from when you feel drained, exhausted, overwhelmed, and stressed when you're thriving with your high sensitivity. You always feel like you're at square one at least, but you're often making progress. You can make thoughtful, intentional decisions about the input you're receiving so that you can limit the things that are just distractions or catalysts for overstimulation. And when you do have new information coming in, you're very intentional about it and you know how to filter it in a thoughtful way. You're making decisions quickly and easily. You know exactly what you want. You're in the flow. You're expanding your capacity. You're making decisions and you're moving forward, and each step forward gets you closer to your vision, even if you're not entirely sure in a detailed sense what that looks like when you get started. It builds as you move towards your North Star, even if that's vague, even if it's not detailed yet. Here are some new thoughts that you can think as you're expanding your capacity and redirecting your energy into things that are more meaningful. I have the energy to do everything that's important to me. There is enough time for everything I want to do in my life. I know how to manage my time and my energy. I choose what to put my energy into. I know that I'm being efficient and productive, even if that's not the way that other people think it should look. I am the master of my energy and my time. My highly sensitive energy levels are super valuable, and they should be compensated accordingly. I am worthwhile no matter how many tasks I complete. I am always moving forward. I know how to make progress. You feel integrated, as in you feel like you're in integrity. You have that internal sense of satisfaction. You feel inspired. You feel motivated. You feel connected to your own desires. And you feel unstoppable, or at the very least, capable and resourceful. These are really powerful emotions. You can tell the difference between how you act when you're anxious, stressed, frustrated, tired, resistant, resentful versus when you're feeling inspired, motivated, resourceful, capable, unstoppable. The difference is the way that you're thinking about it and how you are directing your energy from one thing into another thing. Even if you're just managing your emotions, some new possibility thoughts might be, I'm open to the idea of changing how I use my energy. It's possible that I can get as much done as I'm getting done now and do it more efficiently. It's okay for me as a highly sensitive person to rest more than the average person. It's possible for me to redirect my capacity in meaningful ways. I can get as much done as the next person and do it in less time. It's possible that I can grow a new business, go after a promotion, start a new project, create a new habit, learn a new language in 10 to 15 hours a week or 20 hours a week. Whatever your goal hour is, just be open to the idea that maybe it's possible for you. And here's what happens when you're in that in-between stage. You might not be unstoppable yet. You can get there. But when you're at least in possibility, you start to feel curious. You start to feel maybe a little skeptical, but at least more open-minded. You might even feel more neutral, which is a huge step up from anxious and stressed. Being fueled by more neutral emotions or possibility can help you start to make those changes in slow ways so that you can redirect your energy into things that feel more meaningful and more purposeful for you. I'm going to give an example of my mentees who are going through my coaching school, and they start out in the beginning feeling very anxious. They want to be good immediately. They are constantly beating themselves up when they don't follow a rule or they don't follow the framework perfectly. They are learning the lessons, but they don't know how to apply them yet. And they're all very stressed about how they're ever going to become great coaches like the ones that they're seeing as inspiration. Usually around the 3 or 4 month mark, I start to see them leaning into this new capacity. They've learned the framework. They start to build their own confidence and their own capability and resourcefulness as coaches, which means they show up with more energy. The things that started out challenging them in the beginning of the course are no longer challenges for them. I'm thinking of one in particular who went back and did module 1 again, which is the first big training for the school. She said, oh my gosh, all of these new coaches were so anxious. I could just say, you're okay. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're going to get there. Just take your time. And that was her just a few months ago. This is such an incredible story because it's a short version of what a lot of us highly sensitive people experience when we're learning something new. In the beginning, especially when you're changing your habits from one thing to another thing, it feels deeply uncomfortable. It's unfamiliar. You constantly have to redirect yourself like you would with a new puppy or you would with a toddler. You have to stay on your brain. You have to build new patterns and you have to be very conscious about it because your brain doesn't have an autopilot for it yet. It doesn't have habits or patterns for it yet. So you have to be really thoughtful and conscious as you're building these new things and redirecting your energy. But over time, as you practice these new thoughts, as you practice these new beliefs, as you open up to new ideas and perspectives, and you bring in more of these neutral and positive emotions, you start to take actions from a completely different place. You're not muscling through anymore. You're not forcing yourself. You're not trying to just stay ahead of the boulder trap like Indiana Jones, where he's just running so that he doesn't get crushed. You don't have that feeling anymore. You've built the new habit. Maybe you're running on top of it and you can actually stay on top of it. Maybe you feel like you are doing things faster and more efficiently, like I am with editing my podcasts or even creating the content. Maybe you feel like you're getting more proficient at a language if you're just learning it, or if you've just picked up a new hobby, you're getting faster at it. You're not making as many mistakes. I'm thinking particularly about crochet or knitting or sewing, and how the joke is for people who work with textiles and materials, when you're first learning, half of it is tearing out your stitches and redoing it. This can feel so frustrating in the beginning. And it's like that when you are redirecting your energy from tasks and time into things that you don't have evidence for yet. You believe in it first. You treat it like an experiment. This is just a hypothesis. You're seeing whether it works or not. And then you keep reapproaching your thoughts. You keep checking in on your emotions. You keep sitting with emotions that feel uncomfortable and being with them and being okay with them. You start becoming aware of your energy and whether you're overstimulated as you approach it instead of hitting the wall and having to stop. You start to become aware of that crash and burnout cycle, and you find different ways to cope with it so that you don't have to come to a full stop. That is what it looks like when you can maintain and even thrive with your high sensitivity. This is what growing your energetic capacity actually means. You're redirecting it into things that make sense for you as a highly sensitive person, not a neurotypical person. Then, as you retrain yourself to work towards results and create value or to learn new things, then you can start to grow your capacity. It doesn't feel like you're forcing yourself to do anything. It doesn't feel like you're working against yourself or pushing through or muscling through things. It feels like you're growing. It feels like you're expanding. It feels like you're leveling up. It feels like you're just moving into your next version. That is the possibility behind energetic capacity. This is what I'm working on. This is what I'm helping my clients with. And honestly, it really helps to have someone who can see the vision for you and believe in you 90% of the way, so that all you have to do is show up with 10%. I think any of us can agree. I can show up with 10% belief for myself if somebody else is believing me 90. I do this all the time for my clients and it cracks them up. I actually had one of them say, "Isn't that exhausting for you?" And I said, "No, because I believe in myself first. By believing in myself, I believe in you, which compounds. It expands. By believing in you, I can believe in the next person. By believing in that person, I can believe in 2 more people. By believing in those people, I can believe in more people." Belief builds on itself. And the beautiful thing about belief and possibility is that they're completely free. So when you're in these positive emotions, you're thinking these new thoughts that are more useful to you. That is when the juicy stuff starts to happen. And then it grows. That's how you expand your energetic capacity. That's how things feel easier. That's how you challenge yourself. You meet new goals and it feels sustainable. You're not fighting against yourself. You're working with yourself. And this is where the magic happens. I want this for you, highly sensitive person. I don't know specifically what your particular goal or project is. I don't know what your dream is. Maybe you're even afraid to dream it for yourself because you've told yourself for so long, "I don't know what I want." I don't buy it. I know that you have a vision. I know you have a dream. I believe in you without knowing exactly what it is that you want, because I have so much belief, I can expand it into you. That's part of my energetic expansion, and I can teach you how to do that too. If you're interested, I would love to help you, and you can do that by going to stephanielynn.com and you can book a call with me. The best part about this call is that, yes, it is a conversation about where you are and where you'd like to go and whether you'd like to work with me or not. But the best part is you're going to leave the conversation with clarity, and you'll know that someone believes in you even if you don't believe in yourself. And quite frankly, that's the best part of these conversations, is knowing that it's possible for you. Whether you work with me or not, you can leave the conversation having someone believe in you. And that is the most powerful, most amazing feeling that makes you want to expand your capacity. It is so juicy and so delicious to have someone believe in you and to help you expand your capacity because they have so much to hold for you. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm expanding my capacity to hold more for me, to hold more for my loved ones, to hold more for my clients, to hold more for my mentees. And I just continue to want to grow my capacity. I'm not doing this from a place of forcing myself. I'm not trying to be a non-highly sensitive person or more like a neurotypical person. I'm channeling my own high sensitivity to expand the capacity that I already know is greater than most people's. My capability is huge to feel emotions, to lean into visions and dreams and have such a vivid imagination. I already know that I put a ton of energy into other people and pick up on their emotions and their thoughts and opinions. I'm already doing that. I'm just doing it more efficiently, and I'm doing it in a way that empowers me and empowers others instead of using it against myself and draining myself. If you heard my interview a couple weeks ago with Jamie Davis, the big takeaway that all of my listeners have told me they've gotten from it is that you can use your empathy for its highest good. Engaging your energetic capacity and pushing it in a sustainable way, in an exciting way, in an inspiring way, just a little bit at a time, is how you can use your high sensitivity for its highest good. This is power, my friend. This is how you build possibility for yourself. This is how you build energy. This is how you call in the things that you want and take action in meaningful ways to move towards them. When you keep yourself stuck and when you keep yourself small, you deny yourself the opportunity to create your own power and then to go out and use it to help other people too and to change the world. I truly believe that high sensitivity is needed in the world now more than ever. If you just want to have a cozy life where you just feel really good for yourself, that's enough. And that's worthwhile and that's valuable and that's okay. And if you want to go out and help other people, impact them, leave them better than you found them, show up in a big way to everything that you engage with, you can do that too. Expanding your energetic capacity in sustainable ways, in ways that match your high sensitivity and not fight against it, that's how you create that energy and that power. And that is where the big vibes happen. As a brief recap, the problem for most highly sensitive people when you are not using your energetic capacity for its highest good is constantly feeling fatigued and tired, overstimulating yourself, ignoring and resisting your own emotions, and creating a crash and a burnout cycle where you go, your brain shuts down for days at a time, and then you go back into the go cycle. It comes from thoughts like, I just have to keep pushing forward. I just have to stay ahead of this. Maybe one day it'll get better. This is just the way that it is, which creates emotions like anxiety, stress, overwhelm, guilt, fatigue, shame, and things that keep you stuck following those old patterns. Whether you move into maintaining or thriving with high sensitivity, the key is to redirect your energy from tasks and time and the old definition of productivity into a new version of productivity for you as a highly sensitive person. This means that you're already high capacity to feel big emotions, to think deeply, to imagine and be creative, to problem solve, to be resourceful, to learn new things, to help other people and connect with them. That can expand. All you have to do is redirect the energy you already have from things that aren't working into things that are working for you, things that are meaningful, deep, and purposeful. Once you do that, as you start to expand your energetic capacity, it feels good. It feels expansive. It feels powerful. It feels inspiring. It feels motivational. It feels like true desire and purpose, and not like you're constantly draining yourself and about to go over the cliff. You know exactly what it feels like to go over the energetic cliff, and I bet you know in glimpses what it feels like to grow in an expansive, sustainable, satisfying way. You get to have that growth in your energy whenever you would like it. If you would like help doing that because you're like, all right, I'm buying it, but I don't know how, go to stephanielynn.com and book a call with me. I would love, love, love to help you with this. And I believe in you. You don't have to do anything for me to believe in you. I have the capacity to do that, and I'm continuing to expand it all the time. So come and have a conversation with me. If you're interested in working with me, that's the next best step. Please like the episode, leave a comment if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment on Spotify, Apple, or whatever your podcast is, subscribe or leave a review. That helps other highly sensitive people find it, and it helps us continue to have conversations like this with other highly sensitive people. You are not alone, HSP. There are more people like you than you are aware of. There are so many people like us who want more for our lives, and you can learn things like expanding your energetic capacity, redirecting how you think of productivity, and how you redefine success for yourself. So thank you for coming to the club today. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I will see you on the next one.
Thanks for listening. If you're ready to take what you learned today to the next level, head over to StephanieLinn, that's LINN.com, and book a consultation call to get started. I can't wait to see you there, my dear HSP.